Since CERN was founded, it was dangerous. CERN is not sorcery, say the words on this model accelerator. Yet even today, many people believe that particle collision is devil work. When the Large Hadron Collider was first switched on in September 2008, speculation that the work of the devil is the particle collision was rife. According to many newspapers, doomsday was upon us.
Something inexplicable is happening, where almost half the population say they remember things from the past being different or changed.
The Mandela Effect got its name because there was a very large segment of the population that believed that Nelson Mandela died decades earlier. Suddenly, his recent death was announced. Billions of people are interested in this topic. That memory isn't jiving up with reality.
Is now at the Smithsonian Institute. Smithsonian Institute, they want it.
It's like the Twilight Zone. Not everything is what you think it is.
I think we're in Kansas City.
In the car in which John F. Kennedy was assassinated, there were 6 passengers. I've watched the videos over and over. There is no way in my mind you could tell me there were 6 people in that car.
Things that people know so well just be twisted just enough to get people to question whether or not what they remembered was real.
$100 to the Home Depot.
There are many possibilities for the origins of the Mandela Effect. Some people think it's a simple case of mass misremembering, but the prevailing notion involves the idea that there are other universes existing right next to ours.
Fundamental reality as we know it can change. This lines up with sciences of today. CERN is a collider where they're smashing particles. We could be in a simulation. We don't know who is in charge. It could be aliens. It could be angels or demons, some people say. It could be just artificial intelligence.
The nightmare scenarios that could stem from that are just limitless.
Now, a growing number of people want to know if history is being edited.
The CERN Super Collider is dangerous. The first beam was circulated on 10 September 2008. The first spottings of the Mandela Effect online that I can find is also 2008.
World's smartest kid thinks that CERN blew the world up in 2008.
If you have a phone that was made before 2008, then you can basically see the Mandela Effect.
Some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
If you use a phone made before 2008, using the camera you can see the, quote, inconsistencies.
World's smartest kid thinks that CERN blew the world up in 2008.
They've figured something that crazy out? It's kind of game over.
Elon Musk discusses a shocking revelation about the European Organization for Nuclear Research, better known as CERN.
You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon? Didn't work out. Some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
According to Musk, the particle accelerator was abruptly shut down following a disturbing discovery.
CERN is reportedly talking to Elon Musk and his Boring Company to dig the tunnel, which is projected to cost over $27 billion.
That's bad in a big way. CERN's Large Hadron Collider, the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator, has long been at the forefront of groundbreaking science. In a world driven by scientific advancements and technological wonders, few institutions hold as much mystery and intrigue as CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research.
We're back into the Mandela Effect today. And some of you guys may have already heard this story, but some of you may not have. And it's fine either way because we're going to talk about it. So have any of you ever heard of Shane TV on TikTok? Now, you may not recognize him by his username, but you might recognize some of his videos. According to Shane TV, if you have a phone that was made before 2008, then you can basically like see the Mandela Effect like in real life and prove that it's like not real or an illusion, I guess would probably be a better way to word it. His page is nuts and his videos just blow my mind. If you haven't heard of him, go check him out. I'll put his tag right here at the bottom of the screen. So have you guys ever seen his page before? Have you ever seen these videos before? I'm sure some of you have. But what do you think? Is this real? I don't know, but I would love to hear what you think in the comments.
You can see into parallel universes using first-generation cell phone cameras. Is this why they want us to return the old ones when we upgrade?
Is that shit not crazy? Is that not crazy?
There is a TikTok account that is blowing up right now for having a phone that can see into a parallel dimension. He began his series with a tutorial on how to do it, saying that if you use a phone made before 2008, using the camera you can see the quote inconsistencies. He demonstrates how he can see Mandela effects such as the Berenstain Bears book title, Jiffy Peanut Butter, and even videos like Tom Cruise dancing with sunglasses from Risky Business, and it's all real.
Bring me down, can't run, bring me down, till I was cool.
In 2009, paranormal researcher Fiona Broom coined the phrase the Mandela Effect after she realized that she had a false memory of the date on which former South African president Nelson Mandela had passed away. Since then, people have started noticing similar instances in movies, series, books, historical events, and in their everyday lives. They claim that certain elements of the past have been changed, and many of those who subscribe to this theory believe it was caused by CERN when they powered the Large Hadron Collider for the first time in September of 2008, causing irrevocable changes to our past.
This is where the whole CERN thing comes into play. That is real. I mean, it looks so strange. The only reason I think is obviously it's not these black smoke rings. Well, number one, it's not black, but it's got this like propulsion thing that's going around it, right? Which looks very real. And some people are saying it's something to do with CERN. So if you don't know what CERN is a company in Switzerland, okay? I think there's another one somewhere else as well. But the main one is in Switzerland and Geneva. And imagine a huge ring donut underground, like miles big, right? Underground. And what they're doing there is they're firing particles around, spinning particles around super fast. In fact, almost the speed of light, in the hopes that these particles can collide with one another and create something. I know, it sounds dangerous, right? It sounds a bit silly, but that's what they're doing. And some people, I mean, the whole CERN thing is a little bit, it can go dark, right? And I've touched on this CERN thing before, but I'm just going to try and keep on the straight and narrow here. Some people have said that CERN is opening up portals to other dimensions. Okay? Now, that thing that I showed you, that white ring, some people are saying that is the start of CERN, or it's a CERN portal, okay? Because apparently since CERN has been turned on, there's some really weird stuff going on in the sky, okay? Is that a CERN portal? Is this a CERN portal? I've shown that one
Mysterious
before.
object or dimensional portal caught mid-air near
strange.
CERN headquarters.
Look at this one from 2016. Is this real? Is it fake? Is it CERN? Is it natural?
No.
Whatever's going on is pretty weird, okay? And obviously, when people find out that there's some weird stuff going on with CERN, they start creating other things. Now, I've seen this before. I've never said that this is real. It looks pretty cool, but I really don't think this is real. But people are saying that this is a CERN portal being opened up.
Check out this wild video from Geneva in Switzerland on December 29th, 2023. No coincidence, I'm sure, that that's the same location that CERN's particle accelerator's at. It looks like
someone's even commented, I live in Geneva, Switzerland, not aware that this happened yesterday evening.
It's a thunderstorm. It's called weather. What do you think? Just some natural weather phenomenon? Or does it seem like CERN is up to it again? To me, it definitely looks like those parasites are out playing God again. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
NASA recently discovered something called X-points around Earth. These are naturally occurring portals that open and close every single day. The Themis satellite system discovered these portals a few years back. Some of them create direct pathways to the sun and even to other planets. It says we must stand in defense until we can open the gate. Well, what gate are they talking about? I believe they're talking about the Stargate. When you go to CERN, right outside the front door is this gigantic picture of this Indian god that is standing inside of a portal, walking through. So I think they kind of knew what they were going to be doing when they started this whole building and started this whole project, but they just kind of kept it low-key to the general public, and they only released tidbits of information as to what's going on. CERN is the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. It's the largest machine in the world, located in Switzerland, and it uses this gigantic track with this underground tube that's connected, and they send atoms in opposite directions and speed them up to a percentage of the speed of light and then let them collide. And then they analyze the collision to see what comes out of this collision between atoms, quarks and muons and everything else that they discover. But something else they discover in the process is that they create microscopic black holes. So originally, a lot of people were getting scared about this because they were like, man, if you guys create a black hole here on Earth, will it suck the Earth in? I mean, kind of fair to assume, like, black holes are supposed to be pretty deadly things. Even light can't escape them. So why create one here on Earth?
Is this a portal being opened?
What the fuck is that?
Imagine seeing that in the sky.
What is that? I'm not even tripping. Oh, that's so scary. What in the ever-living fuck is that?
That looks so real. It's incredible, right?
I'm not even tripping.
Even when he pans up, or tilts up, you can see this bit here.
What in the
It's so weird. that one, I mean, man, I mean, if that is real, that's incredible, and I don't know why it's not all over the news everywhere. Okay.
I thought an interesting comment was made when somebody said to me, I heard somebody say, where's Mandela? Well, Mandela's dead because Saddam Hussein killed all the Mandelas. So there's a psychological recovery that is taking place.
Over the years, the internet has exposed us to a lot of celebrity lookalikes, with some companies even making a business out of matching people with their doppelgangers. But nobody was ready for this Nelson Mandela lookalike. When pictures of this man first trended on social media, people were claiming that this man was Nelson Mandela. But a video that has surfaced shows that the man is indeed from South Africa, as he is speaking Sotho, which is one of the 11 official languages from South Africa. The man says that he is in Maboloka in Gauteng. He claims that Mandela and his biological father are brothers.
Yeah.
All he would like is to be able to go back to the Mandela homestead in Unu and meet the rest of the family. He also says that looking like Nelson Mandela has helped him, as he sometimes doesn't have to pay when he goes to shops. This is not the first time South Africa sees a Mandela lookalike, as last year, one of East London's popular Mandela lookalike, Ayanda Mbajoti, succumbed to COVID-19 related illnesses at the age of 46. In the past, there have also been stories of people who claimed to be Mandela. That this man should be taken to the Mandela homestead in Unu to meet the rest of the family.
They could have cloned Nelson Mandela.
After decades leading the struggle against apartheid, Mandela was freed from prison in 1990. He skyrocketed to become an international statesman and oversee South Africa's transition from apartheid into a multi-party democracy. But was the Mandela they released the same one who went in? In South Africa, a popular theory argues Mandela was swapped in jail by the apartheid government. A different man was released in 1990, and he betrayed the revolution.
In 2013, the world received news of the death of Nelson Mandela, but news of his death sparked numerous questions around the world and opened up doors to entirely different worlds of possibilities. Because as far as some people remembered, Nelson Mandela had already been dead for almost 30 years.
In 2009, American Fiona Broome knew about South Africa, and she was sure Nelson Mandela was dead. She vividly remembered his funeral in the 1980s, the newspaper headlines in America, the TV reports, and when she started to ask her friends, some of them also had a similar memory. Broome became famous for coining the term Mandela Effect. Today, many people equate it with false memory syndrome. But Broome rejected this. She believed it was evidence of parallel universes.
In 2009, Fiona Broome introduced a strange phenomena. Broome had vivid memories of Mandela dying in prison in the late 20th century. She had watched his funeral air all over US, Canadian, and British television. She remembers the images of his funeral. She even remembers hearing the touching words from his wife play over and over again. Much to her surprise, hundreds of thousands of people around the world shared those same memories as I do today. I remember the reports and protests while he was in jail. I remember him dying in jail, and I remember the huge funeral procession that was held for him. And that's exactly how hundreds of thousands of people remember it today. But none of this ever happened. Fiona called this strange phenomena the Mandela Effect, and is stuck in the minds of the people. No one could understand how Mandela was still alive.
He was a clone. The real Mandela died in prison, and then they made up a clone.
The evidence was limitless. Older pictures of Mandela contrasted with earlier ones. The mold had disappeared. FaceApp technology showed what the true Mandela should have looked like. In 1985, Mandela was ended in prison by the apartheid government. They kept it a secret and released a lookalike called Gibson Makanda. This fake Mandela negotiated the end of apartheid.
Even the former president of the United States, George W. Bush, was experiencing the Mandela Effect. This was in 2007.
I thought an interesting comment was made when somebody said to me, I heard somebody say, where's Mandela? Well, Mandela's dead.
This press conference was 11 years before Mandela's death. A statement as if Mandela had already been dead for a decade. So what's going on? How could the then U.S. President George W. Bush give a press release that a former South African president and lifelong activist was dead? You have to keep in mind, Bush is not as stupid as he always sounded. For Bush to give a press release that Mandela was dead would be extremely careless by the White House. Mandela would immediately come out in interviews, as he was known to actively do, and it would have resulted in a greater lack of respect for the U.S. government from the international community.
Fiona's audience were interested that a fake Mandela was substituted from the real one, whilst the conspiracy was difficult to carry out.
Not many people questioned Bush at all that day at the press release, and Mandela never spoke out at Bush's remarks. And that's strange, considering that Nelson Mandela was an outspoken critic of George W. Bush.
Both Bush as well as Tony Blair are undermining an idea which was sponsored by their predecessors. They do not care. What I'm condemning is that one power with a president who has no foresight, who cannot think properly, is now wanting to plunge the world into a holocaust.
After such radical differences in policy and clear disdain towards President Bush, are you telling me that Nelson Mandela, who was known to speak out in the media, would remain silent when George Bush said he was dead? It doesn't make any sense. George W. Bush's father, former President George H.W. Bush, also mistakenly announced the death of Nelson Mandela. This was reported by mainstream media, and they had to go on damage control to reassure the South African people that their president, Nelson Mandela, was indeed still alive.
The two Mandelas tell us something interesting. For a long time in South Africa, there has been a religion called Mandela.
Yeah, definitely, bro. He was like our god.
In the early years, the two Mandelas became an icon of unity who joined up people across South Africa.
Yeah, and they tried to link his number. It was 46664, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they tried to link the 666 to Illuminati and the higher powers and the New World Order.
Disempowered by shadowy forces that continue to undermine freedom. The two Mandelas inform of this assessment.
And in a book titled English Alive, published in 1991, a collection of writings from South African high schools, published by Claremont, the Western Cape branch of the South African Council for English Education. We find on page 54 the chaos that erupted in the ranks of the ANC when Nelson Mandela died on the 23rd of July, 1991, brought the January 29, 1991 Inkatha ANC peace accord to nothing. This is not some web article. This is a published book from the South African Council for English Education, which gathered articles from some of South Africa's best high school students. Are you telling me that South African publishers, writers, official councils, and high school students are also going to make the same mistake that George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush made? Or could it be that they, along with hundreds of thousands of people all around the world, all remember the same thing? Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the late 20th century. There are just as many opponents to the Mandela Effect as there are supporters. And they believe that the human memory is faulty and unreliable, and that false news can spread as quickly as true news can. They simply believe we are all experiencing false memories. Some psychologists say that the Mandela Effect is a prime example of the misinformation effect, where a pre-existing memory is retroactively replaced or corrupted by misinformation, creating a false memory so convincing that a person will believe it to be true. But this is the best argument that opponents of the Mandela Effect have.
They could have cloned Nelson Mandela.
Mandela was such an important figure in South Africa.
Yeah.
Do you remember the effect he had? I mean, he's at this point, he passed away. And he was in office until 1999.
Yeah.
So you were still a kid while he was still in office. But do you remember the effect of Mandela?
Yeah, definitely, bro. He was like our god. You know, as kids growing up, like a lot of the people that were already like in the late teens and 20s had like mixed feelings and emotions about Mandela because of like the other stuff that young kids don't really get the access to know about, the other information that's in like the textbooks. I hadn't gone to that level yet. So those people had mixed emotions and shit. But I just knew Dr. Mandela as like this huge mogul, this figure that just like saved us and, you know what I mean, is leading us to the promised land type shit. I definitely felt it. I drew him a couple times. Like I used to be a sketch artist. I drew him a couple times.
Nice. What were the negative things that people were saying about Mandela? I never used to pay attention in my history lessons. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't really remember them in detail, but there were a lot of stories about how he was a clone. The real Mandela died in prison, and then they made up a clone. You know, I don't mind it though. They really said that Mandela was a clone. That he died in prison, and they had a fake Mandela that became president.
Yeah, and they tried to link his cell number or his I don't know, his number. It was 46664, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they tried to link the 666 to Illuminati and the higher powers and the New World Order.
Okay.
Mandela was a clone. The real Mandela died in prison, and then they made up a clone.
I thought an interesting comment was made when somebody said to me, I heard somebody say, you know, where's Mandela? Well, Mandela's dead.
They could have cloned Nelson Mandela.